What's going on? What's going on, face fuckers and jerkers out there? Curtain jerkers in wrestling terms. We are here, PK Valor, Big Kev's World. We are here to talk about we're in the halfway point, mid year of 2024 in pro wrestling. First thing we're going to have to ask PK: do you believe in Joe Henry?
Well, in this case, we ain't saying his name and he's appearing, but
yeah,
I believe in Joe Henry. And I like, actually, since we're going to start off with that right off the bat, I love this whole little TNA WWE collaboration going on. This is something that I've been wishing WWE would have been doing for ages. I know they did it back in the 90s for a little bit, trying to help Paulie with the ECW. And they kind of worked that into a mini invasion angle, but it didn't really pan out because that wasn't WWE style. Not that TNA necessarily is, but when you're kind of blanketed under the same owners now at this point, it was just a matter of time. And it'll help build TNA's audience back up. And I love that because TNA doesn't really have a bad... They're not bad. They just, now that they got away with some of the shit that they have, or from some of the stuff that they have, especially in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
They just need a network to be on now. So hopefully this WWE TNA little mini merger here can help put them on the map again, or at least give them something to where maybe they work out a deal with Netflix.
I honestly think that we could see a what I love about Triple H being in charge creatively, and what I love about WWE having new owners is they're more exploring stuff, because AJ Styles was actually wrestling in Japan recently, and so they're branching out and they're working with other different promotions, which brings that it kind of brings you back to that you and I grew up with, and that's the territories. You got to work with other companies.
Well, as I was growing up, the territories were kind of dwindling away. Still some in the 90s.
Yeah,
I mean, again, thanks to Vince, and then obviously Turner with TNT or WCW on TNT and all that, and TBS, where they didn't really want to have wrestling to begin with. I know there's multiple different shows and podcasts that kind of cover that, so I'm not even gonna start trying to talk about that one. You want to talk about that one or listen to that one? 83 Weeks, Eric Bischoff, I'm pretty sure covers it. I can't remember what episode, and I know in multiple episodes Jim Cornette does it.
Oh yeah.
So, and those two are obviously multitudes more knowledgeable on all the doings there than I will ever be.
Well, I agree with you on the TNA thing. I think this really helps them, solidifies them, gives them a chance to possibly go out there and find somebody that will put them on. Maybe Netflix will put them on there.
Not only that, but it can kind of, if this little partnership continues with WWE and TNA, it could turn into almost like a secondary developmental for WWE.
Mm-hmm.
But since, TNA does technically have a contract with a network station, what is it, Access, whatever?
Access.
Something that's not on your basic cable listing like Fox or USA, even TNT, TBS for AEW. The odds of anybody really seeing it are fucking slim to none. You probably got a better chance of still finding New Japan on American cable television. And they had that back in 2014, 2015, and it puttered out, I think, after a year or two, but they still had that because I had that DVR'd for the longest time and set to record when I still had cable.
They also had Lucha Underground on TV as well.
Yeah, I don't talk about that one. I never liked Lucha. I like Lucha style. I didn't like Lucha Underground.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, though. We got individuals like Prince Puma, also known as Ricochet, Who knows what the hell he'll go back to being Prince Puma if he signs with AEW, because he's not going to be able to be Ricochet.
I was going to ask you this one. This was something that was talked about. This is something to talk about at my work, because now that some coworkers find out that I'm a wrestling fan, now they're coming at me with asking me stuff. What did you get a chance to see the WCW documentary about who killed WCW?
I've watched a little bit of it here and there. I've watched kind of highlights and stuff and listened to different reviews. But as for sitting down to actually watch it fully, I haven't yet. Want to, though.
Honestly,
without watching it, in my opinion, what killed WCW was, in all honesty, just smart business plays by individuals like Scott and Kevin. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. As people started to be able to jack their contracts up, it started to jack their contracts up, which means Hulk was jacking his contract up, because these guys they were top tier talent, or at the time considered top tier talent. They weren't going to let somebody come in like Bret Hart or Bill Goldberg and make $3-4 million a year more than them. Not saying that that's what the discrepancy was, kind of thing, but if Nash was set to make 2.5 and now Goldberg's going to make 2.75, Nash's contract had a stipulation where it jumped up to either that 275 or $3 million a year. So, and for the return on the investment that WCW officials got for individuals like that, it wasn't cost efficient for WCW. They didn't have as grueling of a schedule as WWE, WWF had back then, but you'd have to be crazy not to take that money.
One of the things that they talked about, and this is the last episode, they did like 4-part episode. If anyone gets a chance to see it, Vice has it free on YouTube now with all the episodes.
And now I know where to look for it tonight.
So what they talked about, and this is the last episode they talked about. One of the things that happened is when Ted Turner brought WCW public and they merged with Time Warner, Ted Turner lost control.
Yep.
He lost control of it, and the guy that took over wanted regular television, and he didn't look at pro wrestling as a viable option. So the investors of Time Warner really didn't want, or AOL did not want to have pro wrestling on television.
No,
and
that's not going to help.
No,
anybody's case, because now you're sticking money into a company that you don't want. So eventually you're going to take that money away and funnel it elsewhere.
And Eric Bischoff, I give him a lot of credit. He actually had a backer. They were talking about him buying WCW. He was this close of getting it. And what happened is Brad Siegel lied to him.
Yep.
And they pretty much sold it from underneath him. They gave it to WWE for less money.
Pennies on the dollar.
Pennies on the dollar, yeah. And
I think Vince bought it for, what did they say it was? Only like 3-4.
Yeah,
no, it wasn't 2 or 3 million, was it?
Almost like 3 or 4 million, yeah.
Yeah, so basically pennies. Because they spent in the last 2 or 3 years that Russo was there. I think they blew through 40 or 50 million in the year. So, and then of course they sent Bischoff home during that time because, Russo wasn't the problem. It was Bischoff. Then they found out that was a fucking mistake. Only for Dixie Carter to repeat that, 10 years later?
Honestly, the one thing I do say is I went to a lot of WCW shows, growing up as a teenager, and I got to see some really good, memorable Starrcade 96, for example. I got to
honestly, I never got to see a live WCW show. I got to meet talent live.
Yeah.
But that was because at the time when WCW was kind of in its bigger, where it was actually beating WWE for the most part, I lived in a little podunk 14,000 people city, town, whatever. And the most exciting thing we got was we actually had Goldberg show up at our local like strip mall, mini mall thing. Like, yeah, it had like 24 stores in it. Basically, the type of mall that you don't see in Midtown America or Mid City America anymore. They're going away. Maybe you see the outdoor style of that, but. And he was doing autographs to promote a show in the city that I live now,
Right.
Rockford. But yeah, it's just that would have been the closest that I ever had that I could ever go to see a wrestling show, and they just didn't really come around Rockford too much. They went to Rosemont. Now it's Allstate Arena in Chicago or outside Chicago. It's still actually in Rosemont, Illinois. Or bigger shows would go to the United Center where the Bulls and Blackhawks play in Chicago. But we have something called the BMO Metro Center, whatever. Like a smaller arena, maybe 5,000, 6,000 people tops.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't come. They didn't really do like WWF did a few house shows every once in a while here. Because I went to a couple of house shows, like when Vader still wrestled for WWF. And the Outlaws, when Edge was still kind of coming through, he was still doing his through the crowd gimmick when it was cool before the Shield started doing it all.
You think you know me?
Yep, and that was it was original music where it was the lights going every or two, and
yeah,
it sounded like not dance techno music, but something that you would hear probably in a club.
You know, here's the thing. The one thing I will say about this, when you finally get a chance, PK, to watch the Who Killed WCW, the one thing I actually respect that Vice did was when the wrestlers were on there talking, they were actually being honest instead of WWE producing it and them kind of going with the flow of hating WCW. You see guys like DDP, Booker T, Kevin Nash, and Kevin Sullivan, and a few other people who are actually being honest on there. And I thought that was actually a really good thing because, you know, they always had those. When WWE does a product with WCW, 9 times out of 10, and it really bothers me, they pretty much trash WCW.
Yeah, they bury WCW. They don't really say anything good about it. Which is funny because a lot of WWE, WWF's guys that ended up becoming their top guys are all former WCW talent of some way, shape, or form. Whether it be Triple H, whether it have been technically Scott Hall and Kevin Nash,
Undertaker,
Taker, Stone Cold, Edge even was in WCW for a little bit. So
they, you know, I just feel like
we don't talk about him, but Benoit, Eddie, Ray. I mean, the list can just continue to go on.
Chris Jericho.
Jericho, probably one of your biggest ones to talk about, too.
The Big Show.
Yep. Still one of the few guys that you could see, you know, 7 foot, 500 pounds, come off the top rope and look like a guy half his size. Weight-wise, not height-wise.
You know, and that's something. Well, I know that WWE 2K24 this year they're going to have a WCW pack, and I'm happy about that. But I hope they put more WCW arenas on there.
That would be nice. I still have to buy that one.
And I feel like WWE does not give WCW the respect.
It might start getting a little bit more respect now that, you know, the old man's the fuck out of the picture.
Yeah.
But when Vince was still running the show, he'd shit all over anything that wasn't WWF, or WWE, or Hulk Hogan. I hate to say it, because I know you grew up as a Hulk fan, but
Taker's still my number one guy, though. Hulk was number 2. But as a kid, Hulk was number 1.
I can't really talk a whole lot of shit about people because my idol growing up, I obviously didn't know this until I was an adult. Mine was a raging fucking coke fiend and alcoholic. And the reason I thought he was cool as shit is because he carried a duffel bag with a fucking python in it.
Jake Roberts.
Jake the Snake. I thought that snake was the coolest fucking thing in the world. Which is why I have some now.
You know what's cool? You talk about Jake the Snake. The one thing I love that feud between him and Macho Man.
Oh yeah,
and
with the Cobra that they had bite Savage.
Yeah, well, you know what's interesting is that Savage ended up still getting a fever from it
because he got an infection because just that's just what can happen. I mean, I've gotten sick. I own pythons, so I've got a couple of red-tailed boas, or I have a red-tailed boa. I used to have ball pythons. I've had corn snakes. I want to start breeding snakes down the line as just something to do. Maybe make a little bit of side coin. But I've had the red tail bite me. I've had him bite me on the arm, and yeah, that shit got red and infected. And part of that's my own fault because I still worked with coolants and oils, so that shit got all over it. And, well, yeah.
Particle Hill said WWE suffers from what WWE suffers from today. They try to make it too mainstream, and if you base operation on each territory, people would go and watch guys live.
I got to agree with Heel on that one. I mean, that is the problem, is that over the years, WWE Vince eliminated the rest of the territories. He took away the competition, essentially by buying it all out. And until TNA started to kind of give them a little bit of a run for their money when they had the 6-sided ring, because it was something different. And this is after WCW folded, mind you.
Yeah.
Because people liked it. It was something new. It was something extreme. Not extreme, but it was new, and it was a breath of fresh air. Kind of like no, us as wrestling fans, we might shit all over how something's run, but we do not want to see other companies fail. We want variety. Like, I shit all over AEW because of how it's booked. Do I want AEW to fail? Also, I hate Moxley. I think Moxley's garbage, and Jericho just... At this point, I went from loving Jericho to now I'm just kind of, how can I love you if you won't go the fuck away?
Jericho does got that
stream style feud, it seems. It's and then I've never liked the Bucks. Don't care for Omega on the microphone. Talent wise in the ring, I don't hate Kenny Boy. I don't like the one-winged angel, but that's just because I've always been more of a fan of finishes that are like the RKO or the DDT or the Diamond Cutter, something that you can hit from just out of nowhere, not something where you've got to put them up on your shoulders. Then you've got to swing one of their legs out so it looks like they could actually come off and counter it just to bend them down and friggin' drop them on their shoulders. Like, too much of a setup. It just, I don't like that. Sometimes simplicity is easier.
I also don't think that Mercedes Moné, a.k.a. Sasha Banks, should be the highest paid woman wrestler in the history of pro wrestling. That's just my opinion on that.
I agree with that one, too, especially considering there are people that are better than her. Not very many, but I would definitely have Rhea Payne getting paid more than her. Charlotte, at least on par, because if Charlotte can come back and she's healed, then okie dokie. Let's see here. I'm trying to think.
Would you consider Becky to be more high paid than Sasha Banks from Mercedes Moné?
High paid or worthy of it?
Worthy of it.
No.
I don't agree with that.
Now, I don't hate Becky.
Right.
But Becky got the majority of her mainstay popularity for the same reason individuals like Michelle McCool did. Michelle McCool was kind of a mid-tier. She got her push because of her relationship with Taker. Seth is one of the top guys there. Sure, they made that whole busted nose thing into an angle where they made her the man, and then she went on to be, you know, Becky Two Belts or whatever, Two Belt Becky. But I've never really viewed her as a not really a high intensity, but just somebody worthy of that top spot as much as she has been. I don't, and this is when a lot of people still cared about looks. There was Bayley. I when she went to her heel style gimmick, when she got rid of the hugger part of it, I was like, oh, okay, well, Bayley's got some fucking talent. I liked her, and I think it was her and Sasha at one of the NXTs back in like 2015, where they did the women's Iron Woman match.
Well, here's the thing. I know Prodigal Hill's talking about how WWE's ratings are low and AEW's ratings are low. Here's something, though, the difference between the two. And I don't know how PK might have a different opinion than me, but I'm just going to throw this out there. WWE's shows, even their house shows, are selling out.
Mm-hmm.
While the ratings on TV may not put that in the same category as the venues, but you also got to keep in mind, I also think now the Nielsen ratings, like cable, the ratings, is so old school now. And I hate it
because a lot of people are getting away from having cable. They're going to streaming. And I'm pretty freaking certain that a lot of people that are avid fans for WWE are going to end up probably subscribing, resubscribing, upping subscriptions. I have the freaking hiccups now, god damn it. To Netflix. Because the people like Prodigal Heel, yourself, myself, growing up that had the Attitude Era, we're going to start to see some of that probably come back a little bit more because we're not going to be on mainstream cable anymore. So they're going to be able to look at it and be like, you motherfucker. Now, obviously, I'm pretty sure that, you know, what is it? Obviously not just Triple H, but oh Christ, I'm drawing a blank on the people that own them.
Oh, Nick Khan and Manuel. Endeavor.
Yeah, Endeavor. I'm sure Endeavor will give them. They'll have them on some kind of a leash. They're not gonna, but you're not gonna see like the 3-second delays or 5-second delays of like the audio for AEW where Christian and Edge hugged and they both said at different times, "Go fuck yourself," and then kicked each other in the dick.
And you're not going to see those blackouts when, you know, The Rock would come back earlier this year and they would black out the screen on Fox. Fox was doing that. Fox wanted that blacked out. And I honestly, I feel like now that if you're going to look at the ratings, you have to kind of keep in count, since we're all moving to this digital social media and apps. You have to kind of look at it from, well, WWE's also getting ratings from A&E because they do that bio Wrestle Legends bio, the rival thing. They're also doing the one about the lost treasure thing where they go hunt that down to get items. But you also got, you know, Facebook views, you got YouTube views, you got, you know, X, aka Twitter, you got TikTok views.
Yeah.
If you add all of those up with the TV ratings, that would be your actual rating.
Exactly. And it doesn't help that people in this day and age, we've got so many people that are also on the go so fucking much that most of us aren't able to, you know, sit down and be like, for instance, I'm looking this way because there's my TV. We can't sit down and stare, and we don't always have 2, 3, 4 hours to watch the show, let alone go to the live show, which WWE is just as guilty of this at times too. 4 hours or plus. You've got fucking AEW live, like, don't get me wrong. When I want to, and I want to be in one of those moods, and I want to sit down and binge watch something, I got no fucking problem going to an AEW show. The only thing that I don't like about AEW shows, no storytelling. There's no actual storytelling. Now, there's people that are like Dave Meltzer, please, gods, please, Odin, let the fucking idiot see this shit. Let him come. Let him do this. Dave, one fan to another fan, your system for rating shit is outdated. Fuck you. We know you're biased. All of us wrestling fans are biased. You hide behind your paywall shit that I used to be a subscriber to. And I had to unsubscribe because, for once, Brian Alvarez actually a few times called you out on your shit. But I just got tired of it. Plus, I couldn't afford to do it.
Speaking of which,
I was unemployed at the time, and I needed money to go elsewhere for bills and not to, Dave and Brian Alvarez.
Dave Meltzer came out and said that, you remember the time that Pat McAfee missed the 2 Raws? He said it was part of that storyline. But no, you idiot. It was the fact that his father-in-law passed away. I'm like, that's the thing that Dave Meltzer does.
It's yes and no, because it's also at this point, I will defend Dave on this one. It's not Dave's place to go and be like, and air McAfee or anybody else like that, the private news, that his father-in-law passed, because it's just, I personally wouldn't want someone else on Twitter or X or TikTok or wherever going, yeah, he wasn't here because his dad died or his sister's dog died 3 times over. No, just let me and my family have my piece on that one and write it off and sell the story on that one. And maybe if it's leading up to a live show or a pay-per-view where we can have, some extra seats get sold, where the individual comes back, there's the pop that you're looking for again.
Well, I actually think the product will heal here because this comes up to the next topic. We all saw WrestleMania 40. We saw Cody finish the story. He beat Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns goes away for a little bit. Supposed to be back in SummerSlam, so we'll see what happens there. Do you think the WWE dropped the ball giving Cody this run?
I don't think they dropped the ball on it. I think they built and built and built to it to the point to where they weren't sure what to do with it after it was done. Mm-hmm. You spent so long building up to it that you didn't realize, oh, fuck, we actually have a payoff with this. What are we supposed to do afterwards?
And who's Cody supposed to face? Yeah.
Now, and I'm not sure who Ireland's pacifist is, but I got to disagree with what this individual said. When you tag it, I think you're wrong. I actually think both you and heel are wrong. Cody has excelled at every gimmick that he's been given, whether it's decent or shit, and he's made the best of it. He hated Stardust and with how he was pushed, but he made it interesting. And he got it over, and then it's buried because they've also buried the Ascension and then the shit with Stephen Amell. But that's not Cody's doing. That was a booking thing. When he was dashing Cody Rhodes, he was one of the best Intercontinental champions that had been around in a while. I don't... And unfortunately, now that's what Cody does. I'm sorry, because we see, obviously, in the comment section, they pop up before you can tag it. But yeah, Cody does do this whole little spiel now too much about the dad, about Dusty. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have... This isn't the Attitude Era. This isn't the Attitude Era anymore where everybody's given free reign with the microphone. Everything's written out, even exactly the top tier guys. That none of them are given the same kind of creative freedom. I think the only person actually who's kind of got creative freedom to do whatever they want with their promos is Paul. And that's because that son of a bitch, as much as there's times where you can hate him, he could probably sell ice to an Eskimo. Because the way he talks. Everybody else, they just got to follow the script. Maybe you can, and The Rock. Hell, even The Rock is scripted. Cena's made cracks about it because he had the notes on the inside of his wrist. Well, now The Rock don't do that, but it just proved that The Rock even has bullet points to a script that he's got to make sure he hits. So
I
you
think that
can't blame all of that on Cody. Cody's doing what he's being paid to do.
I think the thing with Cody is, like you said, once you finally get him to the point to where, okay, you finally give him the bell, he finally finishes the story. So it's like, now what?
Yep.
And he had those matches with AJ, but I think the thing that they're teasing right now, and they teased it on SmackDown a couple weeks ago, is Cody and Randy Orton. That's where they need to go. If I was in writing,
I could get behind that too. I could really get behind Cody and Randy having a feud. There's people I've seen that want to see John come back and take the belt and beat Flair's official 16 times. Same with Damian Priest. I definitely do believe that Damian is a transitional champ.
Damian, yes, absolutely.
And at the same time, I think the only reason he's the transitional champ is because they want to put that belt on CM Punk, but he's hurt, and they kind of want him to probably drop it to McIntyre because of that feud. Either that or they want to have McIntyre beat Damian, and then Punk comes out and beats McIntyre down the line.
I honestly think at SummerSlam, we're going to see Gunther beat Damian Priest. And the reason why I say that,
I'd be behind that too.
The reason why I say that is because there's dissension going on in Judgment Day. You can tell with Finn Balor.
Supposedly somebody had teased, they were teasing things about the Demon coming back. Mm-hmm. You got the issues going with Rhea and Dom.
Dom and Liv.
McDonough's just there. I mean, that's all I can say. McDonough's just there. He's like their evil Uno for the Dark Order. He doesn't really, and I agree with you on that one. Heel Punk doesn't, but he doesn't in WWE. When he came back for AEW, he was a draw. AEW had never had $1 million gate before, and when Punk came back, he got AEW their first $1 million gate. So it's all about where he's going to be. It also didn't hurt that, he was re-debuting in Chicago. So
I think with Punk now, I think Punk coming back to WWE, I think they handcuffed him a little bit. And the reason why I say that is because dealing with Punk back in the day and seeing what happened in AEW, I think WWE has kind of got him on a leash just a little bit. Because you don't want Punk to go crazy again and going out of control. And
well, not only that, but unfortunately now the guy's a glass cannon. I mean, he's had 2 or 3 tricep tears in as many years.
And honestly, what they were saying in the comment section about LA Knight run,
I could get behind that. Either that or at least give him a solid mid card. Give him the U.S. title because God knows in fucking 200, 300 days, Logan Paul has only defended it less than 5 times. Back in the day, after 30 days, if you didn't defend it, you were stripped. Mel, leave him alone. He's busy. He's with a show. Go blow your shit up, Mel.
Yeah, she's here's the
thing. I was trying to forget you got the headset on, so she can't hear me. You have to relay that one really quick. Tell him go away.
LA Knight is supposed to. LA Knight and Logan Paul are going at each other at SummerSlam for the U.S. title. I can honestly tell you, if they have LA Knight not win that belt, that's a problem. And LA Knight deserves to have that,
and it's
at least a run.
And as you know, I'll give Logan Paul some credit where it's due. When it comes to athleticism, he's actually got some athleticism. He wasn't one of your typical little, YouTube Hollywood star boys that came in and tried to do this shit and just was a Dennis Rodman or a Karl Malone or, God forbid, Jay Leno. If anybody that watches this down the line thinks I'm kidding, go watch 1997 to 1999 WCW pay-per-views. There are pay-per-views with Karl Malone and DDP versus Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman. And then, what was it? Jay Leno and Dennis
DDP.
Rodman.
No. They're Hogan and Eric Bischoff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, or the ultimate gaff that I forgot to promote that cult classic, because I'm not going to call it horrible, but I'm not going to call it masterpiece. Ready to Rumble, they put the WCW Big Gold World title that Ric Flair made famous, Sting's helped make famous, Hogan made it famous. They put it on David Arquette. Dewey from fucking Scream is a noted WCW champion, and he hated that they did that. He honestly did not want to do that. He has said that in multiple interviews. That he said that was a horrible idea, and he was against it. But TNT said, "Look, we're going to do it." Okay.
The one thing I will give, the one thing we'll talk about here in a minute, I just want to go back to the Cody thing for a minute. It's with Cody Rhodes. I think what makes him, I wouldn't use the word boring, but what makes him unbearable is, yes, I agree with him talking about his dad and acting like a little whiny. Sometimes he acts like a little whiny fuck on there when he talks about it.
Yeah.
But I think with Cody is you got to put him with the right person. You got to put him with a good story. And it was a good story, him chasing after the championship.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's lost that mustard. But I think if you turn Randy Orton heel.
But it's also because, as wrestling always works, it's so much better to have the heel champion with the baby face, your top baby face, as the guy chasing him to get the belt. Because you can have the top baby face win 3, 4, 5 times, whether it be clean or a couple times by a count out or something like that. And then when it comes time for the big one, and you think, oh, he's got it. He's beat him 4 times in a row. He's got to take the belt from him. The heel's going to do whatever he can to save that title, and he pops out with, the cheap win with the low blow roll up or the feet on the ropes. He does something to squeak out a win and keep that title and keep that babyface chasing.
I think what we're about to see, though, and I think what Triple H meant on night 2 of the press conference of WrestleMania 40, he says, when you see Roman Reigns again, you're going to see Roman Reigns like you've never seen him before. I think what we're about to see is we are about to see a bloodline civil war.
So we're going to see Roman Reigns as a woman? We've never seen that before.
We've never seen him as a woman. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he could come out as trans. We got to be inclusive.
I think what we're... I think
AEW can't have the only one with Nyla Rose.
Yeah. What you're about to see, though, I think, is you're going to see Roman Reigns, and I think this is going to happen at the War Games of Survivor Series. You're going to see a Bloodline versus Bloodline feud coming on. And I think you're going to see Roman Reigns as a face, but you're not going to see him as a normal face, though. You're not going to see him as like this little...
He's going to always be that sympathetic baby face, though, unfortunately. Kind of like when he came back from his first not diagnosis, but when he came out to let us know that, hey, I've had leukemia for this many years, and yada yada, and just everybody rallied behind it. Like, nobody gave a shit. They were booing him out of the building before that, and then after that, it was God, if that was the real one, I'd be like, please, Cody or Damien.
Well, John Cena asked who's he going to beat at SummerSlam. I tell you what, Cena, everybody should sell to you. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there to you.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, Donald Trump.
Beat Donald Trump.
Joe Biden with you too. How about that? You just do the attitude adjustment to both of them. Pick them both right there.
Next president, President Cena. I'd get behind that. Running mate's The Rock. No, wait, no. I want somebody who doesn't, ask the American public to donate millions of dollars for our houses in fucking Hawaii while they're burning.
I'm telling you though, Roman Reigns though, the only way this is going to work for him being a face is he's got to be what you call maybe like Stone Cold back in '97, a tweenie. He's got to be like, he's still going to do heel tactics, but he's just going to be that guy that's just going to smash you in the face.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way this would work with Roman Reigns. But I think the only other way it's going to work too is if Solo Sikoa is not the real tribal chief, the one who's working it behind the scenes is The Rock.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that would work. But then at the same time, when you go into that whole little, do you go into War Games as the Usos? Because we still don't know where Jimmy's been.
No.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe he's taking some time off to, recoup. I wouldn't blame him. I don't think he had, because I know Naomi's still there, so it's not like Naomi was pregnant and they were off, having a baby. As far as I know, she's still there.
Yeah, she's still on SmackDown.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So, yeah, either he had to have surgery of some kind or something like that. And that's the only reason, as much as I hate to say it, why Jay's getting the main event, Jay Uso kind of singles push. Because historically, tag teams that are together that long being broke up, with the exception of Shawn and Marty, they don't have long-lasting singles careers. So especially when you're twin brothers, essentially, or your brothers. I don't know if they're identical twins or fraternal. I think they're just brothers.
Well, you had wrestling fans during the time when Vince was in charge. Everybody was complaining that there was no stories being told. At least with Triple H, stories are being told.
And that's where I can kind of get behind some of the stuff that AEW fans, like if you look on Twitter and stuff, because I know a lot of people, there's been a lot of flack going on either side of it for the Will Ospreay MJF match the other day, or last week, whatever technically, where they went for an hour on Dynamite. And in Monday Night Raw, out of a 3-hour show, they only had 49 minutes of actual wrestling. Or at least that was televised. So, I mean, I can kind of get where that's going with that one. And it's trying to find that happy medium of the storytelling versus wrestling aspect. Because sometimes you need the wrestling to help tell the story. Sometimes you just need the promos, the skits, or whatever else to be what helps sell your story.
Now, speaking of, well, no, he's in the comment. John Cena was in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen. So, what do you think about Cena's last run? Do you think we're gonna see Cena break that Ric Flair?
I would love to see it, but I'm almost willing to bet everything that I have that out of respect for Ric Flair and Ric Flair's legacy, Cena won't do it. Would it be something that would be great to see as an on and off again Cena fan? I'd love to see him come back and be able to pull a heel run. Like have him just, he's acknowledged the fact that he's thinning on the top of his head. Let him shave it down and go back to the rap gimmick. Have him start out cutting a promo like, yeah, I knew I was losing my hair. Why the hell do you think I shaved my head, bitch?
What would you get behind a John Cena being a leader of a new NWO?
No,
No.
no, no. We have enough factions as it is right now in WWE that don't really operate as true factions. Like because we still technically, I believe, have the LWO. It hasn't officially disbanded again.
No, they haven't disbanded them yet. No.
But you have individuals that are kind of leaving it to where I think it's only like 2 people. So now it's more or less just a tag team.
Speaking of a faction, and I have to bring these guys up. What's your thoughts on the Wyatt Six?
I'm actually kind of digging how that's going to go. I just wish that Bray Wyndham hadn't passed, so that we could see this whole thing come to a fruition and see what this long-term payout was going to be. I know that there's rumors that Alexa Bliss is going to come back and be the 6th person. I've also heard other people say that rumors are that there is no actual 6th person. The 6th person is supposed to be, or the 6th member is supposed to be the Firefly, which is the lamp, which is supposed to signify Bray. So I could see either one happening, and I think it gives you a chance to take individuals that you haven't really had anything to do with, like Nikki and Dexter, and bring them back into the fold and try to have them, competing again. They brought Rowan back, they brought Eric back, so we got, what is it?
Joe Gacy.
Joe Gacy, who eventually was going to make it up to the main event anyhow, or the main roster anyhow. And Wyatt Six just kind of fits right into that niche for him. I'm not sure. I probably would have had their little opening, like, feud debut thing start with Chad Gable, because they were still trying to work on that whole Gable heel angle with Sami Zayn and the Alpha Academy. I probably would have picked somebody else that was like a mid-card individual. Like maybe, Christ. Gunther's lackey. Stratton's boyfriend.
Oh,
damn it! I'm forgetting his name now.
Would you put Karrion Kross in the Wyatt Six?
Yeah, hell, you could have even had to do that, because now you have, Karrion Kross's group. They have something to do instead of jobbing out to a revamped version of the Hurt Locker or Hurt Business, whatever, with the Street Profits and MVP, or not MVP,
Bobby Lashley.
Because I haven't seen them since freaking WrestleMania.
Well, apparently Bobby Lashley's got some kind of injury. I don't know what, but I feel like Bobby Lashley's not being. I think when Vince was in charge, Lashley was being used better because Vince liked that bigger.
He likes that build. It also doesn't hurt that Vince has always been really, really high on the veterans, and he was more willing to go out of his way for that. The only downside, I hate to say it, is I think there's a little bit of a closet racist tendency with Vince. So if Lashley would have looked like that and been, white skinned, Vince would have had him pushed like a Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Instead of just a little bit less popular. And that's not to say that Lashley wasn't overly popular, because back in the day, as the ECW champion, Lashley was one of the higher tier guys. He had his feud with Umaga, who in them turn they had the feud with the Battle of Billionaires shit, and then that was, I think, probably the last real great time that Lashley was really, really well.
We talk about the Wyatt.
Years ago already.
We're talking about the Wyatt Six. The one thing I actually did love about their debut was it kind of looked like something from a horror movie.
Yep.
And
Like all of Bray's puppets come to life.
the fact that they went in, the fact that they showed the camera angle, and then they went in there, you saw like inside, and it's like you see like Dexter Loomis is sitting right there, and then you see the guy with blood on the wall, and just I have to give Bo Dallas Taylor Rotunda a lot of credit. He is killing it,
Mm-hmm.
and he's
He
doing this.
is channeling his inner version of his brother. By hook or by crook, he's pulling it off.
And the one thing I actually like about it is the fact. I mean, some people are thinking it's a slow build. I've seen some people make comments saying when they're going to do something, when they're going to do this, when they're going to do that, and I'm just like,
well,
but I feel like that's what.
So you got to kind of give it a minute too.
But I feel like that's what's wrong with certain current wrestling fans. Not like people like me, you, and Prodigal Hill, and Jay, and Nate, and all them.
They want the immediate payout. They don't.
Yeah, they don't understand that a build takes some time. You have to kind of. It's like soup. You have to simmer it, put the ingredients in there, and then.
Agreed.
Then it comes out. But I think it is a little odd that they're going to start with him and Chad Gable when they were just doing the Chad Gable,
Hell, it almost looked like. Well, not, and then after that, it almost looked like it was going to turn into an Otis Chad Gable thing, because Chad started, he started smacking the shit out of Akira Tozawa. He started getting after Maxine Dupree, and Otis wasn't having it anymore.
Do you know that Kurt? I don't know if you heard this, but Kurt Angle said on his podcast that he would love to be Chad Gable's manager.
Yep. The only problem is with that would be, and it's I think the same reason why they didn't do this for Baron Corbin, because JBL said he would have come back to be a manager for Corbin. Is the manager is going to be a bigger name than the guy he's representing, and it's going to overshadow anything that guy wants to do. So if Kurt were to come back to manage Chad Gable, nobody's going to give a fuck about Chad Gable. There's going to be like, Kurt.
So that's why you couldn't do anything like. That's why you can't do anything with like Taker being ahead of Judgment Day or him being ahead of the Wyatt Six, because Taker would take that away from him, and it would. And then
you were able to do something like that with Edge when Edge was still wrestling, and he was working his way like kind of out to where it made room for Finn to become the new leader, or who we thought was the leader. Apparently ended up being Damian Priest behind the scenes the whole time. But
well, let me ask you about the current wrestling fans. I see they make comments like when Adam Copeland left WWE and went to join AEW, and he wanted to do it because he wanted one last run with his friend.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with that, but there's some people out there who really are in this war where if you leave WWE, you're the enemy. So now I'm not going to support you because you're this and you're that. Here's the thing:
those are fucking idiot fans. Those are
right.
I wouldn't even call them marks or anything. They're just asshole fans.
I look at it like this: Adam Copeland did everything he could in WWE.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
he was an Intercontinental champion. He was a multiple-time tag team champion. He was a multiple-time world champ. I think the only one he didn't have was a U.S. title.
Yep.
And I think he was even a hardcore champ once. I don't think he was a cruiserweight or light heavyweight champ. That was Christian.
Surprisingly enough, John Cena's never been an Intercontinental champion.
Nope. But that's because usually that he was on the opposite show of what that title was on.
Yeah.
Which is why. So, but he was a U.S. champion before a WWE champ.
I think when you see wrestlers like that, like when you see guys like Daniel Bryan leave WWE, then they go to AEW. Now, I can honestly say Bryan Danielson can't stay healthy. And that's sad, but That's just facts with that.
Same with
I'm not.
Sonya Paige. She went there because WWE wouldn't clear her for use. They felt she was at too much of a risk. Hell, look how long. I mean, Daniel did come back eventually, Bryan Danielson.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's not like they turned around and then said, "Hey, you're not cleared for in ring. You're fired." They still found ways to make it work. Same with Paige as before she left.
I think here's the problem with AEW, and I was talking to a coworker about this because they want to know why AEW wrestlers are always more hurt than WWE wrestlers, and I said, well, probably because AEW does not do house shows.
Not
the
really.
The wrestlers get more of a break, and when you get more of a break like that, it's like working. Like, say for example, you work like 5 or 6 days a week, and then for I don't know 2 or 3 weeks, or you get sick or something happens and you miss 2 or 3 weeks of work. When you come back, you're hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what it is with WWE. I'm not trying to say WWE's wrestlers don't get hurt, because they do. Obviously, you're going to get hurt in wrestling. That's just it's going to happen. But I feel like if AEW went to be in the house show, I think these wrestlers wouldn't be as hurt as much, because they would have their bodies would be used to taking that punishment and taking that pounding. And I think that's what I told my coworker, because I was like, look, that's what I think the reason why AEW wrestlers are always on the shelf.
And I agree with that. And it doesn't hurt that AEW wrestlers want to try to do as much as they can to get, just some stupid shit in.
That's my problem with AEW. That's why I can't, like, it's not.
Or did I say WWE? I meant AEW.
Yeah, the AEW. The one thing I hate about. I want AEW to succeed. I just don't.
Nope.
I have my feelings on Tony Khan, and I've made that perfectly clear. But
likewise,
the problem I have with AEW is that they do all these finishers, they kick out of it, and then they pin you with like a knee to the face.
Yeah,
and it's like
you kick out of 30 different finishes, and it doesn't end the match, but then a simple roll up takes care of it. And it's just...
See, I've always agreed with Stone Cold's philosophy on it, is that he's always said less is more on TV. Save your stuff for the pay-per-view.
I agree. And unfortunately, you got individuals that are massive, and I don't even necessarily want to call them spot monkeys, but at the same time, spot monkey is almost the fucking term that you have to use.
Mm-hmm.
They want to get all their shit in. You got to get all the 500 cartwheels and flips and everything in. And you've got to make sure that, you get your comeback 3 or 4 times and cut off 2 or 3 of those times in mid comeback. And it's not conducive to making a good story for a match.
When you saw finishers back then, they would end matches. Like when Jake Roberts hit you with that DDT, it was over.
Yep.
When Scott Hall would hit you with that Razor's Edge, it's over. That's where you lose the art. Now,
thankfully, that one when Damian was still using it here and there was still protected. Nowadays, really it's seldom to see a finish not kicked out of. The last real protected finish where nobody had kicked out of it was actually Baron Corbett's. And there was a lot of people that were pissed that they had Drew McIntyre kick out of it.
I mean,
but I believe it was WrestleMania, so it made sense too.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what I'm saying. Like, when people talk about the Austin Rock feud, that's where all the kickouts started happening a lot. But
that certainly didn't help. But I mean, for some of that, it helped with the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like WrestleMania I think it happened a few times at WrestleMania 15, WrestleMania 17, and then I know for sure WrestleMania 18 or no 19 when they had their last showdown, and The Rock finally got the win. There was countless, reverse finishes, kicked out finishes.
I mean, the same could be said with Shawn and Undertaker at WrestleMania 25 and 6 too.
I mean, see, with WrestleMania 25, I didn't like it as much. WrestleMania 26, it at least helped push the story. Like, it was the streak versus the career. So there was that story that helped fuel the reason why you could see these guys digging down really deep at WrestleMania 26 to kick out of each other's finish or to try to cut each other off in their comebacks. Because one doesn't want his streak to end, the other one didn't want his career to end.
But the one thing I will give Undertaker credit for in both of those is when he would do the ultimate tombstone and jump way in the air with him.
I can only imagine what that actually, like for Taker to have the fucked up knees that he did, that really had to take it out of him.
But the fact that Shawn didn't kick out after that was kind of like, okay, Undertaker did the ultimate tombstone. Now you're done. But
yeah. And I like that they still kept that story kind of progressing down the line. When it was 2 or 3 years, what was it 2 years later? Was it 28 where it was Taker and Hunter and Hell in a Cell with Shawn as the ref? And they kind of kept they still kind of kept that little bit of a story going where Shawn had said, out of respect, I've stayed retired, and Taker goes, was it respect or is it fear? Like they took that and helped build it towards the reason why Shawn was now the referee for Hell in a Cell. And it also made it look like there was going to be more of an uphill battle for The Undertaker.
That's the one thing too is I think with wrestling today, there's just a lot of myths. You don't see, I mean, not just the storytelling, but it's the storytelling in the ring. Like people are missing out on what we had a chance to grow up with because we had those storytelling in the ring, not only just by promos, but they were storytelling
with how things were done. Hell, if you target somebody's leg, they look like their leg's really bothering them for the rest of the match. Brett would do shit like that. Hell, Stone Cold did stuff like that. Other guys, I mean, even up until into the mid or late 2000s, guys did that. Like if they clotheslined the ring post outside, they'd sell the arm for a while and then maybe have somebody put on an arm bar. They had, I know one of the times that Dolph won the title after he was the Money in the Bank winner, him and Alberto Del Rio managed to keep the belt after beating Jack Swagger, but he had his ankle all screwed up, so he kept selling the ankle. Put Dolph Ziggler in that cross arm bar. Mm-hmm. Dolph kept wrenching on the foot until he had to let go because his ankle was weak, and then he got him with a zigzag 1, 2, 3. You don't see stuff like that. It's somebody beats the hell out of your leg for half the match, traps it in a chair and stomps on it 20 times, and you get up and you're walking around like nothing happened. Or as fans, we all know that everything is scripted and it's real, but it's not real. Like we know things are predetermined, but individuals that have been a part of the business, who have been in the ring, taken slams, know that things hurt. If you legitimately have somebody smack your shin with something, it's going to bother you for a little bit. If somebody wraps your leg around a pole, and they actually wrap your leg around a pole and then continue to wrap it and everything, mm-hmm. It's going to put some put some strain on some of the joints and stuff, and they don't sell shit like that anymore. It's both the major companies. You don't really see it too much unless somebody's legitimately hurt in WWE, and it's almost non-existent in AEW. Hell, in AEW, certain people, you look at them funny and you yell at them, and the next thing you know, they're bleeding. I'm looking at you, John Moxley, if you ever look at this video.
The one thing I saw a video.
Gushing.
I saw a match recently. It was on SmackDown. It was Machine and Nia Jax. Now, Nia Jax was doing stuff like working on her back and everything like that. But what I don't understand what Nia Jax does is she'll work on a girl's back. Instead of doing a torture rack or a body scissors or a bear hug, she will end up doing a Cobra clutch.
Yep. Or a leg drop.
Or a leg drop. And I'm sitting there thinking...
Her finish is the Hogan-style leg drop, which, I mean, for a...
well, it's kind of changed.
No disrespect meant towards Nia either. Because she is a bigger gal, and she's openly admitted, like, she goes, I'm a big bitch. Her words, not mine. I don't think Nia's as unsafe in the ring as people want to make her out to be. But yeah, she's not the greatest in ring, but she's by far not the worst ever. Period. Whether it be male or female, there's been worse.
She's gotten better since she's gotten back.
Yeah.
She also does the bonsai drop now.
Yep, and that they're using her size as they should, and I mean that's what you do with people that, depending on what you like with the women, they still expect the women to almost look like stick figures. So when you got somebody who's Nia Jax's size, or even Piper Niven's size, you don't have them move around like somebody the same size as Becky Lynch or Io Sky. You let them be a powerhouse. You let them be a power style like brawler. And that's what Nia is being allowed to do. So it makes sense for her finish to be something like a bonsai drop, or even a big, like a running splash, like the retarded warrior splash. Oh, wait, sorry. Can't say retarded. It's not politically correct. The mentally handicapped warrior splash. But
I mean, I think that's the art that is missing. And
I got way the fuck off topic there on that one, but we have to suspend the belief of it to a degree. Like, when you watch your favorite hero get the shit kicked out of him in like a spy movie or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're watching the average Joe Schmo get knocked around, they sell it in a movie. They act like your person, that hero, that good guy, looks like he's gone 10 rounds. He's moving around a little bit. He doesn't just start moving like a Terminator. Hell, can't even say Terminator, because at least the Terminator, when he gets the shit kicked out of him, he crawled. And he was a machine. So
you have to, when you go watch the John Wick movies, you can actually see where he's been stabbed or shot and stuff like that. Even though he kills the bad guy at the end, he's still moving gingerly slow.
Yeah, it's showing the effects. And a lot of wrestling right now, they're getting rid of that suspension of belief, and it's really heartbreaking.
And and it's the, like, you can go to like an actual indie show, and the indie wrestlers are using that old mentality of, okay, I'm getting my knee bent out.
Some of them, not all of them. Some of them do that. We got to get all our shit in, or you have stupid weird shit that you can see. They have videos of it still from back. They have the friggin' thumb in the ass, like Jushin, before when he was Tommy End, when he was not Malachi Black or Aleister Black.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys. And you've got like 8 people in a row, and it seems like every one of them, except for the front guy, which was Liger Jr., with everybody thumbing their ass. And then he does like some kind of a fart or something like that, and everybody takes like a hip toss bump. It's funny because it's memorable, but at the same time, to an extent, it's embarrassing for the business. Same with Joey Ryan's little fucking dick toss thing. It's something that you remember, but it's not something that is. There's a suspension of belief, and then there is just, all right, now we're out and like we're high on mushrooms, fantasy land.
I think, well, yeah, that's the bad part about seeing wrestling nowadays, and it happens like you said, it happens on WWE too. They'll sit there
Yep.
and automatically get this second win. I mean, like, I used to love the fact when a wrestler's knee would be so hurt, and they would do like a lifting move, and then all of a sudden they buckle.
Yeah, like
they
they would in the 80s and the 90s. Like you'd see, and I can't believe I have to use this comparison, unfortunately. Oh, and I know that you can tell this one's gonna pain me. Fucking Hogan. He'd wrestle guys like Earthquake, John Tenta, or Yokozuna, or bigger guys like that, and he'd have it where they'd splash him or something, or they'd pound him down, and he'd go to try to pick him up to body slam him, but they would be so big and so heavy that it would screw up his back, and he'd be holding his back, and he's got the one hand up, the over exaggerated like. And then he'd have to do the whole Hulk up thing, and that would be when he could finally just would do it and finally get the body slam because it was built to it. But and then because Sting had done it too, they had Sting do it in WCW with guys like Vader. I think Hogan did it with guys like Vader too in WCW, but it worked towards it. It wasn't just My PK Valor came out there and body slammed 500-pound Paul Wyatt with no issues. Well, because and if I ever had that opportunity and I body slammed, Paul Wyatt like there was no issues, it's going to be because Paul Wyatt let me. Same thing as Cornette has said for anybody when it came to body slamming Andre. It's because he let you.
Absolutely.
It's not you powered up, you muscled up a guy like that. It's he went up and he posted for you like he's supposed to because it called for it.
Speaking of Andre, when you're talking about Andre and you were talking about Hogan even admitted in the Andre documentary that if Andre didn't want you to do something,
you weren't
going to do it. And he didn't think Andre was going to let him slam until halfway in the match. He goes, "Slam."
That sounds like Andre though too.
Yeah, and it's like you.
And if I hadn't heard these kind of stories from other people in the 80s and stuff, like I've heard Jim Duggan talk about it a little bit. If I hadn't heard stories about how Andre did not like Randy. Like I know Hogan's told the story about Randy came in while Andre was playing cards and he's covered in the baby oil. And he just yells, "No baby oil, get out." I mean, that's something that happened. Jim Duggan had friggin' said it. He just did. Andre did this. Andre wasn't going to let that slide, and he would beat the crap out of Savage because he liked Elizabeth, and he thought that Savage was legitimately, beating the shit out of his wife. It was one of those where even the wrestlers forgot that, there's kayfabe and works and shoots.
Yeah, it's just funny how Hogan did it. No baby oil, get out.
Yeah. Oh shit! I didn't even see that. Hold on a second here. I got something. Wrestle talk. Apparently, 11 minutes ago, this article. It was from yesterday.
Yeah.
AEW's major AEW streaming platform update. Apparently, they're looking to move AEW to Max. I thought I had heard something about that, but I was not sure. And I don't know if it's because they're moving like their library, so it'll be like how WWE had the network. Now they had Peacock, or now they have Peacock. Back when before that, where they had WWE Legends on Demand or whatever.
Well, I think what's going to happen is eventually the Peacock deal ends sometime next year. I think WWE is going to move their libraries to Netflix, and I feel like that.
The WWE Netflix deal, I think, takes place. It starts January of 2025. So that means that by New Year's Eve, anything that's going to be moved over from Peacock to Netflix is pretty much going to start happening. They'll probably have that done in the first month. I'm willing to put money that, and my Netflix subscription account, by the end of January 2025, there's nothing left on Peacock for WWE.
And then moving to Netflix is a great deal because, like in the United States alone, there's 400 million subscribers on Netflix.
Yep.
Yeah. And Netflix is.
And the problem is what they can do for that one, or the thing for WWE is, I think we're the only country that does not support the WWE network anymore.
Yep.
I think other countries around the world still have the WWE network, so that means that they can eliminate the rest of that worldwide thing for WWE network because there's more people that have Netflix.
And the cool thing about this, though, is that I actually watched the roast of Tom Brady, and I watched it live, and I saw what Netflix could do with a live situation.
Oh yeah,
and Netflix delivered, and I feel like with Raw, they're going to
Netflix. If Netflix actually lets their people do their jobs, much like talent with wrestling. If they're allowed to do their jobs and they're not given too many hamstrings and leashes, it comes out with a fantastic product.
I'm telling people this. I don't think they're going to go back fully 110% to the Attitude Era.
No, it'll be more like the Ruthless Aggression, or like a combination Attitude, Ruthless Aggression. Ruthless Aggression had more of like the intense style like storylines.
Yeah.
Along with a little bit of the Attitude Era still sprinkled in there.
We still can't forget about the Katie Vick storyline.
And that was in like that transition from Attitude to Ruthless Aggression.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Now, I don't think they're ever going to have. I don't think Netflix or even WWE now as a publicly traded company will do some. Actually, they're not even a publicly traded company anymore because of Endeavor. I don't think they'll do anything that stupid or that radical. They won't be able to get away with it. No fucking way.
I do think, though, I think the first night they go on Netflix, they're going to bring in heavy hitters. I think you'll see Cena there, and I think you'll see The Rock there.
Yep.
And
I wouldn't mind seeing a round 3 for Cena and The Rock.
Well, it seems like everybody wants to go after Cena. I think CM Punk wants another run against them.
Because I know a lot of people were saying that Cena's final WrestleMania opponent or whatever that should be Randy Orton because of the historic feud they had. And I'm one of the few people that I say no. I don't. We've seen it enough. We've seen it too much. Realistically, I don't want to see him and CM Punk because their best payoff, biggest thing was Money in the Bank.
I would love to see something that we haven't seen before. I would like to see Cena versus like Drew or Cena versus Gunther. Something that's
I could get behind that. Let Cena either have Cena. You know what? Actually, this would be my dream scenario. Have Cena come in at Royal Rumble and win the belt, and whoever the men's Royal Rumble winner is, have that person be the one that beats Cena. Whether it be a Gunther or maybe not a Drew. Obviously not a CM Punk. Nothing against Punk on that one either. But have it be somebody who's an up-and-comer. You want to throw people for a loop? Have it be Dominic. Have it be Wunkle Howdy. Because of the Wyatt 6. He helped win. Have it be Chad fucking Gable. Like, I'm trying to think. Or Braun. There we go. That's probably your best option.
Mm-hmm.
Because he'll be built and developed enough by then. He's already off to a solid mid-card status. that could be the perfect time to have him elevate. Have Cena win the belt at Royal Rumble, as dumb as it may sound, and then have Braun Breaker fucking be the guy who wins the men's Royal Rumble, and have him just if you want to have him as the heel champion, have him be one of your top heels. You just have him waylay the hell out of Cena, and that dude is explosive, scary,
Right.
stupid, explosive.
Like 20 something, 20 miles an hour hitting the ropes.
Jesus Christ! Like you blink, he's going from one rope back to the same rope. It's like that friggin' SpongeBob thing. Want to see me do it again?
I'm telling you, I mean, I don't say this a lot because
don't let him do math because he's Steiner blood.
I don't give. I mean, I'm not going to give Goldberg really a lot of credit, but Goldberg had one of the most devastating spears. But to be honest with you,
Bronze looks like it beats it. Breaker looks like the spear is meant for him.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else that uses the spear should stop using it and leave it for Braun Breaker.
Even Roman
nothing
Reigns.
Against Roman. Let Roman go back to using a Superman punch and then let him use the guillotine choke that he was using for a while. Let him choke motherfuckers out. Jimmy and Jey Uso were using it once in a while. No, get rid of it. Go back to using the splash like you guys have been doing for the rest of your careers.
Or your super kicks.
No, that's one. I'd rather have the splash. At least
there's one.
Them and the Bucks are two of the worst when it comes to the super kicks, and I hate it. But
if the Bucks ever did come to WWE, and this is just my dream scenario, if they ever come, I would love to see them.
I mean, they were used as jobs once.
No, I would love to see them.
I don't remember who they jobbed for.
I would love to see them come on there and act like they do the super kick, and I want Shawn Michaels coming behind them and kick them both right in the fucking face.
That would be funny.
And speaking of which, I have to give Shawn Michaels a lot of credit. He's doing a really good job in NXT, and NXT will be going to CW sometime this year as well. So they're going to be on regular television, not cable television. You can get UPN on cable, the CW on cable, or you can, if you get one of those antennas, you can put that on there and you can actually watch. But it's kind of like what you said earlier. We don't all have a lot of time to go watch it. So sometimes we go and we look at the YouTube clips and we go, okay, so this is what happened today. All right. Well, that's cool. That happened today. Okay. And then there's some times where we will, if we have time, we're like, sometimes I do when I have a day off or something and I know I don't have to go in the next day. If I can't sleep at night, sometimes I go back and I watch old WCW clips on the Peacock.
Yeah.
It's just now, I don't know if you heard, but I think sometime either next year or 2026, SummerSlam is going to be 2 nights as well. Not a fan of that.
I don't like that idea. I did not know that was a plan, and I do not agree with that. I think that is just that's too much.
Absolutely. But I will say though, Paul Heyman sold that beating from Solo Sikoa and them like a champ.
He hasn't technically been seen since then, hasn't he?
Mm-mm. And I do believe we'll see Roman Reigns involved in that Solo Sikoa Cody match at SummerSlam.
Eventually.
But I do think that Roman Reigns, while he may be there to confront Solo Sikoa, I would not be surprised if Roman Reigns also hits Cody too. That's just some. It's kind of like the whole thing with Brock. Like Brock comes in and confronted Roman Reigns at that SummerSlam, and then afterwards he F5 John Cena. It's like, yeah, whatever. I know you. Brock, though, I do believe Brock, now that it's come out that Brock wasn't involved in that, I think they should let him come back.
They might, but at the same time, Brock just hates dealing. Brock's made enough money to where he doesn't need to do shit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's content to live on his farm in Minnesota in the middle of nowhere and not deal with people because he hates people. And that's by his own admission. He hates people. That's why he picked to live in the middle of nowhere.
Absolutely.
The only thing holding him back is his, retarded wife. Sorry, bimbo wife.
Who's an upcoming? Who's a guy that you see in AEW right now that you think would thrive under WWE?
Who do I see that would thrive in WWE on AEW? If they decided to put him through developmental, I could see Hook doing really good. Maybe kind of bulking up a little bit because he's kind of a little bit on the scrawnier side.
Yeah.
All right, shit. Now this is gonna be a problem because now I'm trying to think of all the AEW roster off the top of my head.
Is Ricky Stark still there, or is he gone?
I think Ricky's still there.
I think he would be good on NXT.
Let's see here. Bowens, I think, the Acclaimed.
Mm-hmm.
I think they would do pretty good. Let's see here.
Warlord, I think, would thrive.
I wouldn't mind seeing Buddy Matthews come back now that his, him and his wife actually, him and Rhea actually
lucky son of
had to not officially. Let's see here. Who were we just talking about? Who was it?
Ricky
Starks.
Yeah, Ricky Starks. Yeah.
I'd like to see. I wouldn't mind seeing Keith Lee come back.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even mind seeing Miro Rusev come back.
Yep. MJF is one that's for sure. If MJF left AEW and came to WWE, yeah, Powerhouse Hobbs.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hobbs is another one that could have a good run. Yep, Ricky Starks is still there. I maybe as a mid-card talent or NXT, maybe Sammy Guevara.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Serena Deeb back too. Serena was really good originally back in the day.
Yep. We're talking about the TNA.
Wardlow probably, because Wardlow would be somebody. I know he'll never come to it, but I could see Ospreay even come in and having a halfway decent match in WWE. I'm not saying that he puts on shitty matches, so any AEW marks that watch this, I'm not saying that Ospreay sucks.
No, absolutely not.
Or one of my personal favorites was Pac. I always liked Pac, and I'd leave him like that. I would not leave him. I would not have him come back as fucking Neville or Adrian Neville or whatever. No. I would let him come back and keep his personality as Pac and have him go with that.
One thing I would love to see, we were talking about TNA earlier. I know we saw Jordan Grace on there. I would love to see Moose come on WWE or either on NXT and have a little bit of a run, because I'm actually a fan of Moose. I like Moose. I think he would.
Moose is actually pretty fucking good too. Oh, or Malachi, Alistair.
Yes,
right. Because I actually would have thought about putting Alistair if his contract was up with AEW. I would have thought about calling him and saying, "Hey, we want you to be a part of this," because for Malachi, Alistair Black, I think that Wyatt 6 would have fit really good for him.
Or either Judgment Day.
Have him come back as a new de facto, have him redo it. Have him come back. Have him and Buddy Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and play on the fact that, him and Rhea are married and have them, take on their names. Kind of like how Maria Kanellis and Mike Bennett did when they came to WWE together before Maria was pregnant. And they used Mike Bennett horribly, who's now in AEW. We can sit here and fantasy book something all day long, too, on what people should. But unfortunately, if it comes to fruition, because not everybody's going to have that 300-day cycle that they can do.
No.
And I think that's another reason why a lot of these guys do end up going to places like AEW is you can get guaranteed money for 150 or 120 working days versus 300 for around the same amount.
Right.
Because
if you want main
beat the hell out of your body.
I'll say this to any wrestler: if you want mainstream attention and wide global and going to different countries, then WWE is for you.
Nope.
If you want to get paid,
some of them I don't think are allowed to leave to go to other countries.
Well, no, but if you go now, if you want to go now, if you were a guy and you're a male or female and you are trying to sign and you're like, you know what, I want to work less days, but for good money, then AEW is for you.
Yep.
That's just,
yeah, it all depends on, I guess, kind of personal preferences and just how much wear and tear you want to put on your body. Because if you decide to do a move set or a career style like guys like FTR,
mm-hmm.
or an old school style mindset where you don't need to do all the high flying stuff, it's going to put wear and tear on your body, but it's not going to put as much wear and tear on your body because you're not going to have shit like it's like the flips like Young Bucks do, or you're not going to have your body doing stuff like what Edge and Christian used to do, or the Dudleys even used to do, or Matt
or Darby Allin.
Darby, yeah. If Darby's not in a wheelchair within 10 years or something, I will shit a brick, because there's no way in hell with some of the stuff that Darby Allin does. I'm absolutely amazed that he is not severely hurt or hasn't been.
Well, I would say we talked about all the topics. I know we went through stuff. There was some stuff in the comment section, couldn't catch all of them because they just come really quickly in order to find it. But
some of the questions or some of the stuff in the comment section I kind of ignored too.
Yeah.
I know, where was it here? It's scrolling back up really quick. I think Prodigal made the joke about it. Bring back Eugene, which I probably wouldn't get far behind that one, but I wouldn't hate it. I glossed over. I didn't address it because I don't think it really necessarily needed to be about Cornette and Eugene in a Twitter fight thing, and Cornette blocking Nick Dinsmore, formerly known as Eugene, on Twitter over supporting Donald Trump and Hulk Hogan's endorsement. But I'm not turning this show into a political show.
No.
I'll go to TikTok for that one.
Yeah. Even though you post something funny on TikTok, people take that way out of proportion.
Here's the extent of how I'll make this political. You've got a bowl of cat shit and a bowl of dog shit. Which one do you want? They're both shit. That is American politics right now in 2024.
They all lie.
Mm-hmm. They all lie, and all of them go out of their way to further divide and screw the American people. And they keep us fighting with each other about red versus blue. Ironically enough, not the red versus blue like the old Halo videos, but liberal versus conservative.
And
when realistically, if people sit down and they have conversations with their loved ones and their friends, you find out you're actually more split in the middle of liberal versus conservative than you think. No average American is hardcore liberal or hardcore conservative. You've got views on both sides of it that you can support. You're more on the fence post about sides than people think.
Politics, what's funny, what's bad is politics ruining friendships and relationships, but that's because people let it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not because of the politicians or people in the government are doing it. It's because we are allowing them to do it. And we're just like, oh my God,
This is one other thing that I'll say about politics. I agree with as much as I hate to call him this, the conspiracy nut, Jesse Ventura. Take away the denotions on the ballot. Take away the denotions on the sides of the ballot where it marks if you're a Democrat or a Republican. Make motherfuckers, you want to make America great again? You take that away, you make the average American do their homework. And instead of making it to where it comes down to one or the other, you keep every son of a bitch on that ballot. You give every single one of them their chance at a debate. Not just the people that can afford to keep going on.
Right. I agree with that.
Because if it turns into that one, what's stopping somebody from making an executive order that says that, this whole 2-term thing is gone?
Here's my notion. For people who get mad over politics and has to say something, ask yourself a question. If you comment on something that you don't like, you're giving that other person the view that they want.
The view that, all it's going to do is just going to set that algorithm for stuff to be what you want to see or not what you don't want to see.
Right. But people don't understand that. But I know that you got I know you got to see your girl and your kid.
Yeah, they're on their way home eventually.
So I'm going to end this one with this is that's any of you who are wrestling fans, if you're going to judge wrestling by ratings alone, like the Nelson ratings and like the 1849 or 1846 demographic, you're living in the old school ways of thinking with that now. While ratings are important, don't get me wrong, you have to add in the fact that there's apps now. You have to add in the fact that there's social media. They got Facebooks, they got TikToks, YouTubes. You have to, WWE itself has got 102 million subscribers on YouTube. So you have to kind of put that in consideration in your technicalities with that, because you can't just go and like, hey, but WWE has only got a 1.2 rating. They only filled in like 1.2 million people. Okay. But have you seen I think what it is that some of these fans aren't giving it a chance. That's how I feel. I feel like they're not giving it a chance. They think it's going to be like it was back in the day where, they still living in the whole Cena was stuffed down our throat kind of deal. And
I mean, to an extent with certain stuff, that's what they still started doing because they were doing it with AEW was trying to do it with the Elite, and they were going to try to do it with CM Punk and that stuff.
Just don't work.
Yep. And now WWE was trying to do it with Roman when they wanted to have Roman take over as like the guy. So
I just think
as much as Vince tried to push him down our throats to be the top babyface, everybody wanted to boo the shit out of Roman.
I think what we're getting is that I feel like wrestling. If you're a wrestling fan, which we are, I'll admit I'll mark out to something if I'm shocked by it and expect it to happen. I'll mark out.
Yeah, agreed. And it doesn't matter what company it comes from. If I see something that's really especially a really good athletic display or an athletically great sequence, oh shit, yeah, I'll pop.
The one thing I actually got excited. The last thing I got excited for was actually AEW. I was expecting Tony Storm to turn on Mariah May. She turned on Tony Storm and used an old school tactic that I watched in the '80s. They used a shoe in the heel in the shoe,
Yep.
the poker in the head with it. And I remember watching with my dad the Road Warriors taking a spike off and sticking it in Dusty Rhodes' eye.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's kind of like back to that kind of old school thinking. And I'm like, whoever booked that one.
And see, to an extent, as much as I like the gimmick for Tony Storm, because AEW is doing better for Tony Storm than WWE did. I will definitely say that one.
Absolutely.
But the timeless Tony Storm thing, unfortunately, is just kind of it's run its course. It was something that like, and I hate to use it because it looks like I'm trying to be a parrot for Jim Cornette. But Jim Cornette kind of did say it best. I mean, they tried to push too much of it too fast. Like, they could have had it where it seemed like it was a slow build to it, like she was into like a descent into madness and all that. It just they tried it next week or week after, by 2 or 3 weeks later, everybody was on board with it.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Tony's going through like a midlife crisis thing. It was, oh, this is Tony Storm now. Everything's shot in black and white. All these vignettes. And, oh, now she's Marilyn Monroe's, like, long-lost wannabe doppelganger. It just...
I get what you're saying with it. Yeah, I agree. But before we end this, though, PK, is there anything you want to add with the topics we talked about? Or like...
Support your local indie guys. They're the ones that don't, no matter what, even if it ain't something you always like, if you've got a chance and you've got a few hours on a weekend night or Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Friday, maybe sometimes even during the middle of the week on an off chance, go out and see them. If you like wrestling, yeah, it's not going to have the same production value as AEW and WWE, but you can't expect that for an $8 ticket for wrestling.
Absolutely.
There's definitely 2 or 3 hours a night on that weekend that you can be doing. Like, there's worse ways to spend that money.
Right.
There's dumber ways to spend that money. Hell, you can go to the bar for 10 minutes and spend $8 on one shot and not and not enjoy as much as a 2 or 3 hour wrestling show for $8 to $10. Just support your local guys. Support your anything. Support your small businesses too. Your local small mom and pop shops.
And also this week,
like CM Punk said after All Out, Brawl Out. This is Mendy's Bakery. It's really fucking delicious. It's basically a mom and pop thing. Go to that. Go to the small mom and pop restaurants. Go to the small mom and pop bakeries and stores. They're the ones that we want to keep this country running. We don't need everything to be institutionalized by big business.
I just want to throw this out there. I know this is not about wrestling, but this next week, starting this week, Deadpool and Wolverine comes out. So go and see that fucking movie. I don't care if you used to be a Marvel fan, not a Marvel fan anymore. I think this movie is definitely going to save Marvel, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. It's gonna be epic. And also, to remember one thing, you could be a fan of all wrestling promotions. You don't have to have this like the Republican and Democrat. You don't have to be like just pro WWE and then anti AEW or anti WWE and pro AEW. Just love professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Seriously, just love it.
If you're a fan, be a fan of it all. Everything's going to have shit that you hate. Everything's going to have shit that you overly love.
It's the same thing with football. There's shit that you love with the NFL, and then there's shit that you hate. And it's like that with any sport now.
Yep.
There's just shit that you like and shit that you don't like. And it's either A, you're going to have a shit sandwich over here, or you're going to have a pretty decent sandwich, or you're going to have a fuck man, that sandwich was awesome type of sandwich.
Amen.
But that's all. But I know that we're going to be. I know I'm going to do a football thing. I actually want to tell people this one. Next weekend, I will be going to see the very first ever Titans training camp. It's going to be an open scrimmage at Nissan Stadium. So I get a chance to see what this new offense looks like firsthand. So I'm looking forward to that. And plus, we need to do an NFL talk. Need to get some guys in here.
Yeah.
Got to figure out what's going on with the season and what's going to happen, and kind of curious about that.
Especially closer to fantasy drafts for everybody, and see how that goes.
I know PK will be down for that. I know a couple guys that will be down for that.
Yeah, that'll be something definitely with the change of my 9 to 5 job hours changing. So you either have to be a real late night one on a Friday or a Saturday, Sunday show, but I'd be on board for that.
But before we go, I'm actually going to reiterate what PK said. If you have a chance, it's on a Friday or a Saturday or Sunday. If you have local independent wrestling in your town, go support it. Seriously. Because these are people who are actually
They do it because they love the business. They do it because they love performing for the fans. Right. Some of them, are going to try to make it to where they make it in the WWE or AEW or that shit. But I guarantee you, 90% of the people that do it, they know that they're not going to have the opportunity to do that, and they still do this to entertain you guys, to entertain us as fans.
Yep. Is there anything else you want to add, PK, for in the stream?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to tell my family to kind of skip to the end of the video for this one. Junior, you know who you are if you're watching this. Fuck you.
You heard it there.